I'm playing something almost every week, and sometimes I want to talk about it and give you a vertical slice. So stick with me for some lightning reviews. This week on the chopping block. This week I've been playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Prior to this game's release, Indiana Jones has been one of those franchises that I haven't paid attention to in a long time. I've seen and liked the first 4 movies. No, I don't hate the 4th. In my opinion, it was fine up until the last 5 minutes or so. I haven't seen the 5th, but these days I'm hesitant to give any regard to most continued cinematic endeavors, as by my opinion, the movie industry has just been desperately desecrating the corpses of old properties that should be left alone for the sake of revenue. Speaking of ransacking and pillaging the works of the past, we open the game playing as Dr. Henry Jones Jr., world-famous archaeologist and possibly the most renowned member of Antifa, as he endeavors to travel the globe finding ancient secrets from civilizations of the past and rightfully bashing Nazis. It kind of seems like the perfect path of progression for Machine Gun Games, whose prior works consisted of the modern Wolfenstein games, a series renowned for its snappy gunplay and over-the-top first-person shooter action. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, by contrast, opens to a much more mellow and deliberately paced affair. The opening and tutorial level is a recreation of the start of the Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie. It was an amusing and visually well-done way to start the game, although I did start to acquire nitpicks while I played. The game very clearly is endeavoring to achieve a cinematic presentation with appropriate camera angles and the John Williams-esque score accompanying, but the transition from cinematic cutscene to first-person view is rather sudden and jarring. A sweeping transition with the camera eventually moving into alignment with Indiana's eyeline would have better maintained the player immersion rather than just ripping into Dr. Jones's perspective. Minor quibble on camera movements aside, once the opening concludes, you find Dr. Jones in his college and in an endeavor to stop a burgling of some artifacts, gets his ass beat and begins a quest that starts with him wondering why someone took a mummified cat. As is the style of other ventures of Dr. Jones, he is eventually led to the intrigue of secret societies, archaeological discoveries, and the thwarting of some evil entity who seeks to use said discoveries to aid their goals of power and dominance, often through the employ of some manner of supernatural phenomenon along the way. In this case, Jones follows the breadcrumbs to the Vatican and beyond and finds that the Nazis are once again trying to harness mysterious global forces. The story is fine and the environments do a good job of communicating direction in the world while feeling alive and active. One thing I noted early on was the game's move away from blistering action and more to emphasizing stealth and observation, especially in combat because, as a reminder, Dr. Jones often finds himself sticking out as the sole American sore thumb in a fascist Italy. With much of the game seeming to favor stealth over action, the game actually gives me heavy vibes of Dishonored, which isn't a bad thing. Also, at times I was getting so into it that I pretty much forgot I had a pistol a good chunk of the time, which was probably for the best. Just to experiment, I did try to go on a Nazi shooting spree, but was cut down inordinately quickly. Although in a third way to deal with enemies, you can engage in melee combat, or as I came to refer to it, the melee combat. Even in the movies themselves, Dr. Jones seems to avoid direct face-to-face combat, and when he does get into brawls, they're usually chaotic and sloppy, and for better or worse, that has been translated to the game. For the occasional grunt, it was tolerable, but once in a while you get locked into a boss fight that can knock off 33% of your health bar with a single blow, while you can wail on them over and over with seemingly minimal effect. A stark contrast with your ability to interact with most everything else, although even the world did seem to have its own issues. At one point, my ability to progress through the game came to a screeching halt because something didn't load properly on the back end, and I couldn't trigger a door opening animation until I'd quit and forced a shutdown in the game, restarted, then I was able to progress once the game had reloaded. Also, in the middle of a lengthy puzzle sequence, I had an ever so lovely hard crash out to the home screen, resetting my puzzle progress. That was fun, he said, clenching his teeth while contemplating throwing his controller across the room. From the low of the glitches I've experienced, I feel I should then turn to the parts of the game that drew me in the hardest. The sense of adventure and discovery. Grabbing a torch and slowly descending into ancient catacombs or secret chambers, looking for the tiniest details to give indication of booby traps, which, yes, did occasionally happen, or if there were prior occupants was the most engaging part. Seated on the edge of my couch, eagerly gripping my controller, I delved in with a mindset of mystery and adventure. The small touches of being able to pull out your journal to briefly give you directional markers as if to gift you with Dr. Jones's knowledge while pulling out reference material added to the immersion. This is what I felt is the essence of Indiana Jones, which is why it was all the more infuriating when some glitch would rip me right back out. Maybe I wouldn't harp so much on the technical issues if it wasn't for the fact that for the second week in a row, we have a good illustration of games being bought at or close to launch being in a buggy state. If only I'd made a video saying there was no point in buying games when they come out due to modern development tactics. Oh well. Pushing past the technical gripes, I'm actually thoroughly enjoying Indianapolis Johnson and the Large Sphere. Attempting to ignore the awful melee combat, it's probably the most authentic feeling Indiana Jones experience outside the first 3 movies. I'm pleased to see Machine Gun Games expanding their talents, and with the understanding that a first game is usually a proof of concept and a second game attempts refinement, I'd be down for more. Just please, no more melee boss fights. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm recalling the games I've played this year, and I'm trying to recount if I actually played any outright bad ones. Foreshadowing. Hey, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end. Remember that I give away Steam keys with my regular weekly uploads, and all you have to do to enter is leave a comment and have contact info on your YouTube profile. But as always, thanks for watching, and keep your head on your shoulders.